3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. You're tuning in live to the Healthy Soul Talk Show with your girl, your favorite therapist, Dr. Kimberly Thomas. Come on in, join us for this amazing discussion this evening. It's a beautiful day. Glad to be here. Been an interesting week, ready to share and talk about it. You can tune in live on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Blog Talk Radio. If you want to call into the show, you can dial 323-870-4375. Again, that's 323-870-4375. Press 1 to join us. And if you want to email the show with any ideas, questions, or comments, you can email us at hst@ttlomedia.net. Again, that's hst@ttlomedia.net. And of course, you can follow us on all social media platforms at Healthy Soul Talk. Again, you're listening live to the Healthy Soul Talk Show with your girl, your favorite therapist, Dr. Kimberly Thomas. Welcome. Come on in. We're ready to get started here. Let me check in with my favorite producers. How are you all doing?
I'm doing well. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm okay. This weather is a little tricky.
Can I say this? The weather is bipolar. Is that?
No,
I can't say that.
No,
it's the weather though.
Because if we listen to the newscasters, they tell us what to expect.
But they ain't right. they ain't right.
This is the weather that will get you ill.
Is it?
Are you the one to get the flu vaccine? And
I've never gotten the flu vaccine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not. I don't believe that the weather. I believe the science, as they like to say. So I don't believe the weather gets you sick. It's the germs. It's the germs.
The lack of care.
Yeah, it's the germs that get you sick, not the weather. These are. That's what medical doctors say.
I agree with that. And then I guess the weather correlates, seeing that we don't adjust well to taking care of ourselves, right? And here we are slipping with our immune system.
These are facts.
There we go, touching everything.
And touching and not agreeing. Right. All of that.
How are you, Latanya? Are you staying germ free?
Yes, I am.
Free from infection. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. Did you feel that song in your shanana?
Yeah, it was down in there.
Welcome, y'all. You're listening in live to the Healthy Soul Talk Show with your girl.
She's saying my shanana. Wasn't it a song? Okay, never
with your
mind.
girl, your favorite therapist. Listen, let's get right into it because we have a lot to cover. We're talking about domestic violence awareness this month, and we know that there's also breast cancer awareness. And so I think this is just the season to be more conscious, educate ourselves. And, one of the things I like to zone in on is wellness. And so we always kick off the top of the show with spiritual connect point. And I know that this topic or this word has come up before, but I was just sitting with it when I sent it, because right now it's so powerful. And I wonder if people even know how jealousy manifests, how that looks and what it feels like. And when it's a feeling, right, that goes too far, and so the spiritual connect point is, how is jealousy a sin? Mm-hmm. And, we always, let me just talk about me, growing up in the church, and, there were scriptures that were often quoted that had that list of sin, if you will. And, that was the word, right? Mm-hmm. Fornication, idolatry, right? Adultery, jealousy, envy. And each of those deserve a platform to say, how is it a sin? Mm-hmm. Right? What, in essence, how does this make one dangerous, not just to someone else, but for themselves? Mm-hmm. And so I began to like really think about that. And I found a few scriptures here, but I definitely wanted to put this question out there, because I feel like we still give it a light definition when we talk about jealousy. And it's more than just, I want what you have, or I'm upset with you because you have something that I don't, or I have to work harder, right, at getting something that I see you have. And so some of the scriptures that I found was Proverbs 14:30. A heart of peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. Right? Okay. Mark 7:21-22. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed the evil thoughts, fornication, thefts, murders, adulteries, deeds of coveting and wickedness, as well as deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. Mm-hmm. Job 5:2. Surely resentment destroys the fool, and jealousy kills the simple. And I tagged it there because I know we can go on and on, right? Mm-hmm. With reference to this, but what's dangerous about jealousy when it's a heart matter and it turns to behaviors, right? That falls under the realm of sin. You know, I think that there's a manifestation stage, right? That can start. I know it starts internally, but sometimes jealousy ramps up. If that makes sense. So it starts out, I can be making fun of you, right? I can be judging you. And then it ramps up. Now I gotta have what you have. So now I'm coming after you, right? Physically, aggressively. And so I feel like that's the dangerous part of it when, you know, as Christians and we say we want to live right, we want to treat our neighbors right, we want to even treat ourselves right? That's part of this Christian walk. It's the manifestation, right? Do you feel like we really understand how jealousy can manifest itself and the behaviors of that sin, right? I feel like we don't talk about the behaviors of jealousy that gives context to why jealousy is a sin. So that's where I was left at with that is how do we talk more about this dangerous emotion, right? That is sinful in nature.
That's an interesting point. When I saw your message about how is jealousy a sin, I instantly, for me, I reverted back to the original 10 Commandments, where it says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house." Covet. Covetedness is a synonym, a biblical synonym for jealousy. Meaning, you know, it's a similar word to it. And when it says that you shall not covet your neighbor's house, or his wife, his male or female servant, his ox or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So that's the sin, because you want something that your neighbor has.
Yes.
Right. Meaning you want what you physically want what they have. Not I want to be what they have.
Yeah.
I want your house. I want your husband. I want your wife. I want your car. I want your. That's the mindset of that particular point. How it becomes a sin is if you look at it from the standpoint of it becomes a sin when it instantly goes against what God is or the very nature of God.
Okay.
Jealousy is sinful when it leads us to rebel against God.
Okay.
And it calls and grieves him. So you and because it's domestic violence month, I thought about it this way. A lot of times when you hear about stalkers, there's two kinds. There is I'm just going to name two. I'm not going to more than two, I'm sure. But there's the ones who stalk because they feel like they have a relationship with you even though they don't know you. But then there are the ones who stalk because they want your life.
Wow.
They want to be where you are.
Yeah.
And that's why and that's when you end up creating creating this paradigm where you want to be in the other person's shoes.
Yes.
So whether you're fostering jealousy towards someone else or provoking God to feel jealous by going astray or by worshiping something else, worshiping your job, your car, your family.
Okay.
Doing those things, that's when sin enters.
Okay.
That's when sin enters. And you can go all the way back to the beginning when the Bible tells us that who was it? I believe it's Paul that says, is it Paul? No, John. John says, I beheld Satan fall from the sky. Well, that was because Satan got jealous of God. He wanted the praise that the angels were giving God.
Got it.
He wanted to be, so he was like, if I'm the one doing all this and doing all that, you know, that we often equate it to the music ministry in the church. Well, the people come to see me, they in the word, I'll steal Tanya's favorite line. Ain't nobody came to see you, Otis. That's how Satan felt. Like he's the temptation, like he was David Ruffin.
Yeah.
And he felt like I'm bigger than the group.
Yes.
And it's just felt like I'm bigger than God. So that's where jealousy takes hold, and people then force themselves into bad situations without thinking them out, because I'm so enthralled with envy. Mm-hmm. It's the other word, envy. Mm-hmm. I'm so caught up in the envy of you that I can't see anything else. I'll give you one more scripture, James 3:14.
Okay. All right.
It says, I'll read two versions. It's King James says, but if ye have bitter envying and strife in your heart, glory not and lie not against the truth. The Message Bible says it like this. It's the way you live, not the way you talk, that counts. Mean-spirited ambition isn't wisdom. Boasting that you are wise isn't wisdom. Twisting the truth to make yourself sound wise isn't wisdom. So we have to be careful. And it's one thing to say, man, I wish I had that. That's not jealousy.
Right.
Man, I wish I could get my stuff like that. That's not jealousy.
Right.
Like, man, like, Tanya, can you do this? How come we can't do this?
Yeah.
That's not jealousy.
Yeah.
Because jealousy is when you say, I can't go forward till mine look like theirs.
By any means necessary.
Yeah. And I'm gonna sabotage you because I can't get mine together.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when the jealousy kicks in.
And it happens in relationships. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think we look at that word neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If you're somebody like me, once upon a time, I took that as my next door neighbor.
Your next door
right?
neighbor. But it's anybody.
Your fellow man, right?
Yeah.
Your fellow,
Yeah.
individual that's in your life, your space, no matter what the kinship is, that principle, right,
Mm-hmm.
still applies.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's why I say the talking about of it, right? The talking about it is what's most important, because some of us don't get it until we're in it, and it's detrimental.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I believe we can get in front of this if we help people understand how jealousy manifests itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's certain behaviors that can ramp up to, right? That ultimate, when you say, your job becoming your idol, right? That's because you're more after possessions, and you're seeking something that's taking the place of your worship.
Ah, that's good.
Right.
That's good.
And now it's inevitable, but when we say by any means necessary, you begin to do things not just according to scripture, but sometimes we break the law. Sometimes we become more dishonest, right? In our presentation, we're not as caring. We
cut corners.
Yeah.
We'll cut corners to try to get there because I want to be equal to.
Yes.
Or we sacrifice things that we should not sacrifice, so I can be, as the song said, who wants to be like the Joneses?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we'll do things to and we'll forego paying something so I can look like the people, like the other people look.
Right.
Yeah.
And here comes the frustration, the friction, the damaged relationships, all of that, right? Comes after that. And so I feel like, that's where it's inner, right? This is you're examining your heart and how you act, right? Because I know that what you said just a moment ago, because I say I want something somebody has, that we automatically say, don't be jealous. And it's like, no, that may be a goal, right? That could have already been in me. But I think we need to learn the true definition of what jealousy is and how it's a manifestation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's a manifestation of something within you that causes you to act and behave a certain way that impacts other people and yourself, and that can really destroy you and another person. All right. So I hope that's the start of people examining their heart, right? That heart that leads to the life of jealousy, right? People can live in a life of jealousy and unresolved issues, right? That cause them to be jealous. Yeah. So we're talking about this thing, right? We're talking about domestic violence and abusive relationships, and we're highlighting intimate partner violence this month So I definitely wanted to make sure we were relevant in what we're talking about. Welcome everybody who's joined us. You're tuning in live to the Healthy Soul Talk Show. Just talking here about how jealousy is a sin. And so we hope that that's a continued conversation, right, that you have in your spaces. And so as we move along here, we have our Did You Know Fact. And in this month, we're focused on presenting facts about domestic violence here. And I have a statistic here that relates to fatalities, because today we're going to talk about when love turns fatal. The Did You Know Fact is 72% of all murder-suicides involve an intimate partner. 94% of the victims of these murder-suicides are female. Right?
Oh, the victim.
The victim. The victim, right? Murder-suicide. The murder is the female at 94%. And I thought about that for a long time now. We've just zoned in on the nuts and bolts about how we can assess what ramps up to a person losing their life out of a relationship gone bad. And I wanted to present this evening. I found this interesting presentation that was put together by Dr. Jane Smith. She focused on femicide, right, which is the basically the way a large number of females are losing their life across the world. And she focused in on intimate partner violence, and they put together this amazing concept of eight stages, right? 8 stages that we can examine that gives you insight into the end result of a fatal, right? A fatality in an intimate relationship. And so they used a couple of examples in their presentation, and I want to go through these 8 stages because somebody right now may be experiencing this, and will need to examine where they are to see what their next steps are. And so this conversation, I like to have it because sometimes we don't break down where in a relationship it can be, again, manifesting and growing to this level of a consequence, which is a person losing their life. So the first stage here that they talk about is looking at a person's pre-relationship history. Pre-relationship history. And again, this dialogue is to provide education, is to provide information, and hope that you go back and further explore and dive into what I'm saying. And so we look at warning signs from pre-relationship history, and you all, join in here with me if you feel like this matters. So it says here it matters as it relates to pre-relationship history if the person has a history, specifically a criminal record that includes domestic violence or stalking or threats. Right? When you think about that, I know traditionally we may not ask a person if they have a criminal background.
I was about to, I didn't want to interrupt you because
Go ahead.
No, because that's even if they don't have a criminal background,
right?
That doesn't mean they just haven't been caught.
Yes.
Or nobody's pressed charges.
Yes.
And it's hard to get 100% factual information about a previous relationship.
Okay. I can go with that.
So how do you know what you're getting? Yeah, like are they? I mean, it's kind of like, do we know the correct questions to ask?
And what to look for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I hear some people say, I don't want to know anything about their past relationships. Remember, meaning the conversation, right? We tend to shun if I'm dating someone and they begin to talk about an interaction with their ex, right, or something from the past that involves an ex, we like, now don't talk about that. You with me now, and it's like, no. you may want to listen, right? Because they may give you insight into some friction. They may give you insight into how the person you're dating handled being rejected or denied, or whatever the circumstance is. You may want to start listening when they share with you things that they have done or things that did bother them when they were with their ex-partners. And then that's a great question, because it's not like you ask that have you been arrested? Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Yeah, they're going to present their best. They're not going to be forthcoming. This is why you have to have further conversation in this natural form and allow them to walk through that door of, let me tell you about some instances. Right? Because that's the natural way of speaking. Right? If we're having a conversation, then let's just say we're talking about a world event that's going on, and they start sharing with you, yeah, me and my ex used to talk about this all the time, and I don't want to hear that. No, you may want to listen, because they may tell you the escalation of an argument and what happened. Right? When we had this particular dialogue, it helps to watch how they even speak of their exes. He or she was crazy. They were always doing this. They were always doing that. I always had to do this. I always had to do that. Listening, right, also gives you the history of how they were in those past relationships.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You have to have it in its natural form. We have to be good listeners. We have to ask or get rid of that concept, I don't want to hear anything about your past, because what you did back then is back then, right? I want to, quote unquote, see the new you. Sometimes there's some stuff that's still there. Right? There's some stuff that's still there. It says you want the warning signs of some of these pre-relationship histories are allegations. Even if they're telling you about an allegation, and they may say they didn't, they were wrong, and I went through all this stuff with this last person, and they were always accusing me. It becomes they were, right? It's always them. That's still giving you insight into the dynamics of that previous relationship, right? And is the person controlling? Do they have previous arrests for even violence in general? Right? Their inability to accept the challenge, meaning do they get upset when you say, hey, I don't agree with what you said? Right? And so they're very confrontational. They have a history of being coercive. Right? I always have to talk, my partner into it. I'm saying partner because I want to stay neutral, right? But just thinking about listening to the past functioning of your partner can give you insight into whether or not there's some warning signs you need to pay attention to.
Okay.
Right? That we need to pay attention to. So it does matter. Previous relationship history does matter. You ever dated not recently.
Go ahead.
Somebody, and you didn't do what you normally do as far as asking questions or even, having certain types of conversation, and they did something to totally throw you off, like, oh, wait, I didn't know you were like that, right? I didn't know you could curse like that, or I didn't know you could go off, right, on people like that.
I've never been that. I've always been the I need to check some stuff out.
Really?
Type person.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean I still wasn't surprised about some stuff, but it was never anything like oh hell no, like nothing like that. But yeah, I've always been the one to
check it out.
Yeah, to check some stuff out ahead of time, because it's you want to know that the person is not completely yeah.
You think that's fair though, to especially living in today's energy, right? How we see relationships, and we're moving really fast in the dating stage. Should history matter when it comes to getting to know someone, which includes their temper, right? Which includes how they've handled a conflict, even on the job, how they handle, friction in their families with certain kinships, right? Should that matter? Should that be discussed?
It matters to the point of for the general things. Mm-hmm. We have to be careful because you're right. In this day and age, in this day and age, you have people who, would rather see you not happy than, I'd rather see you not happy than, and so I'm gonna say some stuff about you, even if it's an issue where it's a dead issue from way back when. I'm gonna bring this up just to throw a monkey wrench.
Okay, got it. Yeah. All right, stage number 2, right? Stage number 2, early relationship warning signs. Early relationship, right? And she tagged along with this early commitment demands. And again, we're just putting this out here for discussion, looking at in the early stages of getting to know someone. They found that some of the warning signs with the fatalities that they researched or that was a part of their study: early cohabitation, early pregnancy, early declarations of love using possessive languages, your mind will be together forever, right? Were part of the early stages of a relationship as warning signs. They led to some of these fatalities. The push for early commitment, jealous at the early stage, meaning within that first 1 to 3 months, resist attempts to slow down or end the relationship, right? The examples that they gave, that they used in this particular presentation, where one young lady, the guy had not even met her like face to face before he was pushing her to commit to a commitment and to describe him as her boyfriend. Meaning, we use a lot of dating apps now. And I've seen this shift just in, the work that I do. The dating apps, we can text for like months or weeks before we actually see each other. But it gets really serious, right? The conversation really gets into, before we actually meet face to face, go for dinner, go for coffee, there is a talk about establishing the status of this relationship. And I don't know, I'm still processing that myself in terms of, is that counted when you use a dating app to get to know someone and you're texting and now you're talking about, are we an item? Are we in a committed relationship? And we haven't even met yet, face to face. And they were saying some of the early warning signs with this particular young lady was this gentleman was pushing her to commitment and saying he was a boyfriend before they actually met in person. Right? The other case that they studied indicated that the partner became obsessive very quickly. Right? And he was seeking commitment from her and making her declare that she loved him. Think about that. Like, you have
all via text.
well, this is the second case where they are meeting, right? They have met, but he became obsessive, right, very quickly, and was making her say how much she loved him, and making her say like he's the only one for her, right? That commitment that's going on that he wants from her. And so when you think about, and I'm not here to say when a relationship status should change, but some of the warning signs in the early stages of getting to know each other is this person making you say that you love them, right? And you don't even know their favorite color. You haven't even met their family. They haven't met your family. You haven't dated or been out on enough dates, right? To evolve this feeling of love, and they're asking or they're telling you to make this declaration. They're telling you we should move in together. And I've seen some instances where two people will live in their separate apartments. Their lease will be coming up to renew. And somehow, some way, we got to talking and we decided that we should move in together because both of our leases were coming up. And that talk of, well, do you love me? Or wouldn't it be easier if we moved in together? That way we don't have to do this, and this. Is that coercion?
That's what it sounds like.
You know what I'm saying? Really,
that's definitely what it sounds like.
Right? Is there such thing as moving in, quote unquote, too soon with someone?
It can be. It can. You can.
And I know. We have that. You're not married, but
no.
Let's
deal with the reality. Let's deal with the reality. It can easily be a situation where. It can easily be a situation where you're in this the person says, I want to move forward, but I'm not going to move forward unless you do this. So now you're skipping some steps that you would normally take in order to appease the other person.
Yes. And we're talking about these warning signs because we're talking about power and control, right? We're talking about it's going to ramp up to what happens when you try to leave, right? The early stages, the warning signs, the dialogue, the pushing of their own agenda, and you don't have a say so, right? I can imagine what some of this dialogue with these two ladies when they said, okay, I'm not there yet, and they push you to say, yes, you are. Now tell me you love me. Right? Tell me you love me right now. Right? And that you're committed, that I'm the only one and you're never leaving me. This is the early stage of the relationship. And I know that we had this idea, we know that statistically that to some that meant, oh, you must love me as intense as you're saying that I must love you. Right? And love doesn't hurt, right? You don't have to force someone to tell you that they love you. Right? That's the whole thing is if you have someone who has to force you to just say the words I love you, that is a warning sign.
Absolutely.
A red flag. Right? And we're just talking about this because we're talking about the stages of, right? We talk about when love turns fatal, it doesn't just happen suddenly, right? There's a history to when love turns fatal.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a history to it, okay? So let's keep going here. Stage 3, right? Stage 3, relationship behaviors, and the researchers coined this as risk markers, right? And still dealing with the relationship. So we talked about the early stages. These are some things that's happening. There's this agenda to early cohabitation, early pregnancy, early signs that telling you that I'm committed to you. So we still here with coercive control, stalking, sexual aggression. Even threats to suicide or kill. And what I mean by that is, now in this relationship and you're feeling uncomfortable and you're saying, I don't know if this is working for me. And that partner says, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. Right? I'm going to kill myself. And so, I think about that because most people who care and have compassion, right, for someone who says that, they won't leave them. Matter of fact, it's like, okay, what can I do to help you? Just tell me what to do, right? Just tell me what to do. And they continue that throughout the relationship. They enforce routines on the victim or the victim's family, right? They threaten pets and children, have a quick temper, and may have a drug or alcohol problem. And in these cases that they studied, they said that one of the guys controlled not only their partner's time, but also some of their friends' time. Like told the friends when they can come over and be with this young lady, right? Very possessive. Everywhere you go, I go. And I don't know that right there. I think we kind of take lightly in terms of how much time is too much time to spend with a partner.
How much time is too much time?
How much time is too much time to spend with a partner?
That's a loaded question. Because people will say if you're dating or if you're married. Because if you're married, is there an option?
Let's see how I asked that. So, I guess, okay, we could go there.
Okay.
Every moment you have to spend together, right? So, everywhere you go, I go. So if you're going somewhere after work, I have to meet you there. On the weekends, pretty much, if you're going out with your friends, we need to make it couples, right? I just think about how there's no individuality. There's
your individualism is you no longer get to be,
right.
Yeah, there's no you anymore. It's just us.
Right. And I mean everywhere too. Okay, I got to go pick up the kids, right? I'll be right back to no, I'm going with you. Right? Or like I said, a quick run to the store. Okay, hold on, I'm going with you. Right? That's that very possessive everywhere together.
But some of that is insecurity.
Okay.
And then the other may be, and that insecurity may be, some of it may be insecurity, could be trauma. Where I'm not, you have a history when you're not around me. So because of your history.
You think I have a history? Or are we saying that something has happened in a relationship?
It depends. So it could be two different scenarios.
Okay.
It could be in my previous relationships.
Yes.
I've experienced this trauma.
Right.
So I believe I need to make myself present all the time.
Right.
Or in my relationship, in my dealings with you, I have experienced said trauma.
Okay.
And so I need to be, every time you go somewhere, I need to be there too. So that it could work either way.
Yes. And the warning signs, obviously, there's a behavior, there's a level of functioning in this stage of the relationship. Can you imagine someone shared with me recently that quite frequently in a past relationship, every time they came out of work, their partner was waiting in the parking lot.
Wow.
And was like, come on, let's go to dinner.
That's tough.
Right?
That's tough.
And you know, it obviously it's a very uncomfortable position because you're like, glad to see you, but I didn't know you were coming, right?
Yeah, at some point it's overkill.
And then therein lies the conversation. Okay, how much longer are you going to do this? I need you to stop. Right? Therein lies the tough conversation where things begin to heat up and escalate. Right? And imagine now you're threatening, right? And I don't take this lightly at all. Threatening pets. It's very significant.
Threatening pets.
Pets. Threatening pets.
Okay.
And I mean that in the sense of, we know those who have pets have relationship with their pets, and they know you love your pets. You take care of your pets. So the idea is that I'm going to hurt something that's near and dear to you just to show you how serious I am about you staying with me. Right? So whether it's a turtle or a dog, right? You threatening to harm or kill my pet is very significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's the principle, it's the energy that's coming behind that. The true
Because if you'll do that to if you're willing to do that to an animal,
Yes.
a living thing,
Yes.
what's your next step?
Yes.
What's your next step?
And even threats to children.
Yeah, because
Right.
that is the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't have any pets, then what?
Right. Threaten close family members.
Right.
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 And this is all relevant because again, one is getting a glimpse into this may not just be words.
Mm-hmm.
Right. These may not be idle threats.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because if you can have those words come out of your mouth, I need not to underestimate whether or not you're likely to carry that out. Right. And so even when you talk about jealousy, there's a constant accusation. There's a constant, you out there doing life without me. How could you? Okay. And looking at quick temper, I think we often say we need to know what a quick temper is. Quick temper means that if this person only loses their cool with you, they have a quick temper. Mm-hmm. Right, because sometimes we don't. That's a hard observation to make. To say, "Wow, I noticed you only go off on me. You short fuse with me, right? But I don't see you doing that, out and about. And I'm not going to label out and about, right? Because most times we're blaming ourselves. The person is blaming themselves for the other person being short fused. When really it's a sign, it's a warning sign that they are trying to maintain a certain level of power and control. And if they don't have that power and control, yes, here comes the aggressiveness. Here comes the, throwing things or cursing or, whatever it is they feel they need, intimidation practices and tactics, right? To say you need to get in place. You need to stay in this position that I want you in. All right. So those are the relationship behaviors. And this doesn't have a specified amount of time on it. Mm-hmm. Right. We often hear relationships have been functioning for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Like this. Like this. And that person may say that the victim is saying, okay, I'm just tired. I'm wearing down. I'm tired of living like this. I'm losing things and they're not caring about me. And now things are happening to where they're questioning, can they stay like this? But yes, they've been at this, quite frankly, for some years. And now they want out. Okay. Next stage here says potential homicide trigger. Right? Potential homicide triggers. These are warning signs. So now here we are in this relationship and there are talks about ending it. There are thoughts about separation, right? The person is saying, hey, I think we need a little space. They threaten separation. And so the other person doesn't accept that. Right? Mm-hmm. And they tell you, I'm not trying to hear that. We're not breaking up. Right? The only reason why you want to leave is because you got somebody else waiting. Right? You have somebody else waiting. Okay? And so these are things to think about when you talk about. You have a
comment.
We got comment. All right, here we go. Let me go over here. I am about to mess up this name. But Oifi?
I was gonna say Aofi.
Aofi. We'll get it right. They say it's really important to discuss family domestic abuse. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope to broaden that up. More.
Oh, okay.
More conversation. Because domestic abuse, from the family perspective, involves many different kinships, right? But it's definitely very important to talk about also the partner violence. So I hope we can keep with this discussion. Thank you so much for your comment and joining in with us here. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. So another trigger here is them begging you to stay with them. Reverend?
I think that's
what's your definition of begging to stay?
I think that's
together?
where we I think that's where the commitment part comes into. Somebody wants to be with you. You don't have to beg them to stay, nor do you have to manipulate them to stay. I think the issue comes up when, if you leave, this is going to happen
to you or to me.
I'm going to do this to.
Yes.
Like, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
It's that language.
Yes.
That language.
Yes.
Is a around the back way of saying something else. It leaves the door open for the person. Anybody who actually cares about you won't walk away from that situation because of the way you worded the statement.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So when you make statements like, don't worry about if I don't answer. Because now in your head, you think, and then especially if you've had some prior conversations that you instantly go back to, or if there is a history or a pattern.
Yes.
So it's like, oh Lord, wait a minute. Because now there is now it's not about love, it's about concern.
Yeah.
So because you've thrown out the trigger words.
Yes.
And somebody who's listening and knows you doesn't ignore that.
Yeah.
Whether they stay or not. Right? And so you have to be careful, because see, people play that game, and because you can say those words to the right person, that person be like, you know what? 911, I believe they're gonna hurt themselves.
Yeah. Yes.
We just had an argument.
It even goes to that extent though.
Yeah.
Because now it's, now I know I got you to stay.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you're doing this for me, right, then I know you're not going anywhere. And it even goes to the extent, when they talk about, when I think about the concept of begging, that's thrown in there too. Like, okay, you still going to walk away and I'm here begging you to stay with me. You ought to be happy, right? Somebody begging you to stay, with them. And it has this domino effect, right? But it's not the begging that, okay, I'm going to get it together. I'm going to make change. It's the begging, you're not going anywhere. And this is a manipulation tactic. Right? Because this is my last effort, right, of trying to get you to stay. One of the situations that they were talking about with the young lady, the guy went as far to contact the parents of this young lady with reasons why they shouldn't break up. Right? So we can see here when it talks about a potential homicide, it's like, now I'm reaching out to other folk to say, okay, we shouldn't be doing this. And that underlying message there is, I'm not going to let this happen. Right? Because now I'm letting other people know what's going on, but how I disagree, the strong disagreement that I have with this. And so just thinking about the escalation of it, it also goes on to say here, some of the potential, right, trigger warning signs for homicide is mental health starts to deteriorate in the offender or the victim. Right. And so obviously either one, if there's an escalation for mental health issue in the offender, then we have more rage, right? We have more, as they say, seeing red. We have more going on in the body that says, okay, now I must turn it up a notch. And when I think about that from a victim standpoint, if the victim starts to have mental health issues, they're no longer able to keep up with the demands that's being placed on them in this relationship. Right? So now I have to leave. Now I just can't do this. I'm breaking down. I'm overwhelmed. I'm having panic attacks. I have to go. So there's no more talk about what can I do. I'm trying to get up out of this because my body is shutting down. Right? My body is shutting down. And you don't see that. You just want what you want when you want it. Okay. And so even it says here, event which prompts retaliation or revenge on the victim. So now we get to where they begin to act out, right? Sometimes this involves, damage to property, right? Sometimes this is, I've known situations where the aggressors call the job of the victim, like relentlessly, and they actually get reprimanded, right? And those are potential trigger signs, because now it's like, not only can they not wait until you get off work, they're trying to disrupt your life, your livelihood. It's getting heated. It's getting hot. Now I'm going to intentionally destroy everything in your life. And if I don't see it happening on your job, oh wait, they haven't fired you yet. Oh wait, you still making money? You're not asking me. You don't need me for anything. There is this. What's next? Right? What's next? Because my attempts to get your attention, or my attempts to make you come back to me, is not working. Right? Not working. Bankruptcy or financial ruin. I've known situations where they ruin credit.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I mean, I'm like, how? Right. But to think about that, if you've been in a relationship for a prolonged period of time, they have everything about you.
Yeah.
Right. And there we go.
Credit, reputation, get people fired.
Yes.
From jobs.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything that can disrupt if I can't be with you, then I'm going to make sure that any and everything that you care about,
yes,
that I can put my fingertips on,
right,
I'm going to ruin.
Yes.
That's the mindset.
And we have to talk. As I do these things, I know you're going to have a confrontation.
Right, because every time I do it, it's going to force you to reach out to me. And then if you don't reach out to me, I'm going to do the next big thing.
Yes.
And the next big thing.
Yes. So triggers, right? Triggers that, okay, something has happened to keep confrontation, because I'm not getting what I want. I'm escalating things, right? And so that's the warning signs. And now we get to the next stage of escalation, right? Escalation. And these particular warning signs, where we intensify how they're stalking. Showing up late at night, trying to get into your house. I've known these situations. Right? Showing up in unexpected places. I think about technology now. I think we got into this last week, where you can put, what do you call those? Trackers on phones. Situations where they put trackers on your car. Some
right. You know, some you don't even know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
For real. Right?
Yeah. Because
it's happening.
They have it was in the novelty stores, but these are real devices.
Yes.
And now they are as simple as it could be the charging port. Here, I bought you this charging port for your phone to put in the car.
Oh wow.
And the charging port has a tracker on it.
Come on.
Or I bought you this thing, and this has a tracker on it. Your Fitbit has a tracker on it. You can track your Fitbit.
You can?
Yeah.
Got to be more careful.
Yeah, if I buy you the Fitbit, and then set the Fitbit up for you.
Yeah.
And turn the GPS on for you.
On the Fitbit.
On the Fitbit. And then now I can see your miles, and I can show you, like, let me show you how to see your miles. You ain't thinking about the fact that I can see where you at.
Wow.
But now that I'm, checking your miles, I can also see, well, what you're doing all the way over here or over there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's just like Tanya said last week, she cuts the iPads and stuff off, but it's just like if you are if you are most family households are on one plan.
Yes.
So the owner of said plan has access to every device.
Okay.
To every device.
Okay.
But that's in a normal relationship.
Yeah.
But when you go out of the way to do some extra stuff, I know you're gonna cut your phone off, so I'm gonna put this on the car. And then I'm gonna put this, you got so much crap in your purse, I'm gonna drop this little thing in your purse. Because they come on pins.
What?
Oh yeah, you're gonna pay for it.
I am learning.
You're gonna pay for it, but they come on pins. They look at it, and it's a regular good pen.
Huh.
Right? And it's like, here you go. And then, and it just sits there, and the battery will last for about 3-4 days. So, it don't take you nothing. And then all you do is wait for that person to go whether you put it in a briefcase, if it's a dude, or if you put it in a purse, at some point she go into the bathroom, get it out, recharge it.
Yeah.
All of that is it's one thing to have security cameras in the house. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to have cameras in the house that the people who live in the house don't know where the cameras are.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? You come in here, you know where the camera is. Yeah. She hates this camera in here. That's why she covers it up every time she come in here. But it's in here for a purpose. Yeah. It ain't here to spy on you. It's in here so that we see who coming in and out the door. But if you had cameras at, even at home, like, the cameras, you've seen the commercials for ADT or Ring. Ring has indoor cameras for your house. If the kids get home, if your kids get to be 13, 14 years old and they get home before you get home from work, you want to make sure that your house is secure.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any movement in your house if ain't nobody home.
And I think where it turns, now that you mentioned cameras, there was someone who, their partner would do spot checks. And, sometimes cameras go down. And I'm only saying that, the camera system was down. And they flew home to see what their partner was doing and went completely off, right? As to why did you turn the cameras off?
Ooh, that sounds familiar.
Right? And it wasn't the concern of, did somebody come in? Like, are you okay?
Why are the cameras off?
Let's move on, shall we? Good evening, Felicia. Felicia said, well, praise the Lord. What time the show started again? 5:30. 5:30. She says, absolutely. I always check to see where my husband is on my location on his way home so he could stop and give me something to eat.
You know what? That's the excuse you're using, huh?
Yeah.
I like that excuse, though.
It is true.
That's good to know.
It is true.
That's good to know.
But yeah, so those early warning signs, right? The stalking, right, becomes more severe, more serious. I think about private space, right? Getting in your face, grabbing you. Right now, it's become more aggressive, both physically, emotionally, even financially. Now that they can start closing out accounts, they can start, if there was the arrangement where they give you money, they can stop doing that. They can start hanging around outside of other family members' home where you visit. All right. They can start texting you endlessly, threats of violence. I mean, that language becomes stronger with, I can't live without you. If I can't have you, no one can. Right? So that escalation is, okay, this is where my head space is. This is the space that I'm in, and I'm showing you now, right? It's concerning behaviors that become more serious and more severe. Okay, more concerning behaviors. And so that's the escalated stalking. They may be trying to hack your email, your Facebook, your social media pages. Like we talked about the tracking software, leaving gifts, right? All the time. Now it's okay. Now they're showing you that they're close. Does that make sense? So when you bring gifts, right, that means you are close at any point in time. Sending, flowers, right? They're close. They're on your, I like to say they're on your trails because they're showing you, okay, I'm ramping up. right? This is not an attempt to again rectify change, or I'm working on me. This is, I want your attention and I want it now, and I'm not getting it, and this is where I'm going with this. This is where I'm going with this. Okay. Next stage here is change in thinking. All right. Change in thinking, warning sign. This is where when the victim tends to stop responding. Okay. Where there's the last attempts at reconciliation takes place. Right. And so now they may go from begging to crying. Right. The force of now we're no longer looking outside your window. We're knocking on your window. We're disturbing you. Right. We're trying to get your attention. All right. So they become more, when we talk about suicide ideation, now it becomes more homicide talk, right? I'm not going to live without you. Now you may say, are they talking about themselves or the other person? This is where both of these concepts, suicide and homicide, could be a factor here. They're not taking care of themselves, right? So they're no longer working. How do we know? Because they're following you. Right? They are leaving things on your doorsteps. They're across the street on your house every night. Right? So not only is their mental health declining, their physical health begins to deteriorate. You may even listen. I've heard some instances where now when you contact me, you're intoxicated. Right? And I can't even say which drug of choice it is, but understanding that's an escalation, that's a change in thinking, that's a warning sign to now I got to try to cope, and now I've involved some more substance.
Do you see the question?
Question.
Do some women like domestic violence? I've seen some experiences where they are the aggressors. Shocking.
Okay, so two-part question there. I like that. Do some women, we talked about this last week, right? Do women stay because they like it? No, it's to stay alive. Right. It is to, and I'm saying this in the sense of the severity of the domestic violence, where I know that the chances of me leaving is going to involve losing my life or something happening to my kids. You've already, been financially abusive. So I can't see leaving. Right. And when we say, well, why do victims stay? The thought of leaving is just as detrimental as if they stayed. And in some cases, they actually have nowhere to go. Right. If I'm here by myself, meaning, no family here, sometimes partners talk their partners into moving away, literally, like to another state or far away, in the state that they're in. And that's also a form of power and control to isolate you, not just in those relationships, but in demographics. So a lot goes through a woman's mind when they say, okay, is not necessarily the question of do they like it, is how do they actually see themselves leaving? And if they can't answer that question, then it's almost like they work on themselves to deal with and cope through the abuse. Only that it gets worse, right? And yes, I agree that there are some women aggressors out there. We actually provide services for both men and women in these programs. And, we know that statistically, it could be where again, a belief system. Some of them have been in past abusive relationship. Now they're like, okay, the next relationship I get in, you're not going to do me like this. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and we just going to go for it. Right. So I feel like when women are the aggressors, the history of how they got to being in the position of maintaining power and control is relevant because it gives us greater insight into their particular mindset. So I feel like that study is growing, but we know that, some women are aggressors from previous relationships and, some are fighting back. So now we see where now she's fighting back, the man has taken, a more subtle approach to the relationship. Says, I'm speaking of, I know a woman who likes to fight the guy. Yeah. And I imagine what verbal and emotional abuse that comes with that, right? While they're fighting. Very, very, very sad situation with that, because most men don't leave either, right? It's the same question we can ask, with that. Why do men stay in relationships where they're being physically abused in a sense that they're being severely harmed as well? Yep. So change in thinking, right? Those warning signs that really talk about, even to the extent of calling the police. In this particular stage of escalation, sometimes the police do reach out to the aggressor to say, hey, we don't want to have to arrest you. We're warning you. And that means nothing to them. Right? That means nothing to them. Okay. And so, and sometimes we think about the headspace of this escalation, particularly with the aggressor. What gets them to that point where they have no regard for being told to stay away, even by authority? That's how that. Can you see how that's a warning sign when they totally disregard even that call being made by a detective, right? Or a law enforcement, being called out. They disregard it. They clearly disregard orders of protection, because we oftentimes when we hear, particularly the circumstances that make the news, we hear about a history of police records being called and there was an order of protection, and that piece of paper, unfortunately, sometimes does not matter to the aggressor. All right. Felicia says it happens every week at a property she owns. She hits him and he keeps coming back. Yeah.
Wow.
I think about that as well, Felicia, keep coming back. I don't know what his circumstance is, right? If he has somewhere to go, right? A lot can go into that. I think about the same concept for the women. What would he be losing if he left? Can he see, making it on his own right now? Does he have the support to leave? Is his family pushing him to stay in that relationship? Is not that bad? That happens as well, right? Where we have friends, family, close people, people close to us trying to tell us it's not that bad, and we should go and try to work it out. All right. So the escalation, right, is serious. Stalking, persistency, change in thinking happens here with that notch of, okay, I'm at this place, right? I'm ignoring warning signs, and the victim is not responding, right? That's important here, right? A change in thinking happens typically when the victim stops responding, or there's a new relationship that the victim is in, right? Or they're seeing someone, they're dating. Change in thinking happen, and there's more escalation that occurs. Stage 7 here says planning, right? Planning. What does that mean? They start taking photos of places you are. One of the cases that they studied, this particular gentleman was taking photos of the back of this young lady's house. Watching the house, if movements of people coming in and out. Right? Escalation of stalking. Okay? They begin to tell people of plans and continue to make threats. They also found in their search of this that there were many internet searches, right, about intimate partner violence and ways to do that. They start buying weapons or other types of tools to incapacitate the victim. and we see that, more heinous crimes where when there's disposal of bodies, right, they often can go to a computer or a device and find an internet search of the how-to. Okay, so stage 7 is the planning warning signs. And, I think about everybody, there are many people desiring to get the FOID cards, the conceal and carry. I often listen to that, when it's turbulence in a relationship and it kind of comes out of the blue, right? Like, what I was thinking about the other day, going to, my FOID card and conceal and carry, and it's like, well, what brought that on, right? Are you feeling unsafe? Are you feeling unsafe? But we know that there are other ways that murder suicides are carried out. But the planning, right? Listening to, looking at the emails, they become more of as they say here, a menace, right? Where now they're calling multiple people in your family. Have you seen him or her? Right? Are they there? Can I come over? Or trying to build relationships with other family members just to get closer to you. Again, suicidal threats become more definitive. So I know of a circumstance where the person said, I'm about to shoot myself. Right? So we went from, hey, I can't live without you, I don't want to be here anymore, to no, now I'm about to shoot myself right now. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Right? And so I think about, some of the murder suicides and how if most likely they weren't together, what was that thing right before that happened that brought them together at that very moment? What coercive tactic was used, right? What was the emergency that got them together? Or in some instances, especially in Chicago, where they knew where the person lived, they just barged right in, right? There was no regard for, okay, I'm walking in this building and I am going to get you. I am breaking down this door and I'm getting you and me, because that's the breaking point. That was the mental, right? The mental breakdown that happened at that moment was, now I'm just going to go do it. Felicia says here, this behavior is surrounding that missing girl, Gabby. They say her husband killed her.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah. Again, fatalities in relationships, right? When you say love that turns fatal, it's not an instant thing. It's a manifestation, right? A manifestation. It's a progression of something. Yeah, progression of something. And then this last stage here, we have the homicide, right? The homicide suicide. Okay. And what this looks like is, if it's a homicide, a clear confession, right? I did it. I couldn't live without her. Right? She was not going to be with anybody else. There are many people serving time right now for, quote unquote, this crime of passion, right? Especially if they are in one of their episodes of stalking and they see you with another person, they actually come prepared, right? Because they've planned and they were waiting for that moment of, any minute now, right? I'm ready to take this particular action. It says here that with one of the cases they were studying, the guy broke into her home to kill her. The other case that they mentioned while they were doing this presentation was the guy went to her place of work and shot her and then himself.
Wow.
And we pretty much, I think about Mercy Hospital,
Yeah.
You remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
The doctor and this guy who and he unfortunately he took other lives as well. I think about that. Where the homicide turns to suicide, but sometimes there's just a homicide, and it's made to look certain ways, right? Some look like homicides made to look like a suicide where they did it together,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some homicides are made to look like an accident. I know a family right now who was told that their loved one carried out suicide, and they absolutely know that she didn't.
Wow.
But the way that it happened was she took a bunch of pills. But they know of this abusive relationship. They know, right, that there was some serious turbulence, and they were trying to get her away. And it was that type of relationship. And just one day, he called.
Wow.
To say, right, that she carried out suicide because she took a bunch of pills. Right? How? Right? That void, that anger that this family has to say, we know that on her own, she didn't just take a bunch of pills.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sometimes children are targeted in the homicide. Right? Sometimes children are used as collateral, right? For this, and sometimes children witness the homicide.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got into the field, I was out training, and there was someone who was sharing. She was an adult, well into her 30s, and she shared that when she was 3 years old, she hid in a closet because her father was killing her mother. So she hid in the closet, right? And she heard and has had to live with that, right, for her entire life.
Wow.
Right? And there's sometimes where homicide is committed, and the perpetrator blames the victim that they were self-defense, or they were provoked. Right? They were provoked in some way.
Yeah. She verbally said something that made me feel threatened.
Or she, you get creative, right? They grabbed something, or she, looked like she was about to, right? Using their words against them, right? When they were fighting back, trying to leave the relationship. And so now you've twisted this thing to say that you were in self-defense.
Yeah, because that's their way of that's the justification that led them to the act.
Yes.
That's what they told themselves.
Yes.
All the way through the process.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the story that they sold themselves, was that I'm doing this because. Yeah, I'm doing this because. But that's what the abuser says too, though. You're making me do this. You're making me do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about this because it's something that we're shy, right? We're shy about getting into the details about what does a fatal relationship, what are the dynamics, right, of a fatal relationship? What are the dynamics? Because when you think about prevention, intervention, and one being able to understand what is happening here and where this relationship has the potential to go, right? They're better informed. I'm not saying, hey, it's gonna, turn this thing around and you'll just walk away, with no issues. But we have to begin to have this dialogue about what does a fatal relationship. We talk about abusive relationships. We talk about that all day long. But what actually are the dynamics of a fatal relationship?
Yeah, we don't. The topic is, I mean, there's probably not even enough time in the, I'm not even talking about today's show, I'm talking about period, to go through the ins and outs of how do we get to that point.
Right.
Because you spoke about the murder-suicide thing. It's like, I don't want to live without you, and I refuse to let you live without me.
Yes.
So in order for this to happen, I need to take you out, and then so that I don't have to deal with the emotion of you not being around. Yes. I am then going to take myself out.
Yes. Yes.
Or the whole household.
Yes. Yes.
Because I don't want.
Whoever's there at the time.
Right.
Right. Whoever's there at the time, and I know that media and social media, these outlets really report more of domestic fatalities, which now includes brothers, sisters, mothers, right? Mm-hmm. Fathers have been shot, at the home, and it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is how real this is when someone can't take the dissolvement of a relationship. Mm-hmm. Right? This is how serious this is, that in their mind, by any means necessary, I'm going to get what I want, or someone will suffer. Mm-hmm. Someone will suffer. And I think we like to compare a lot. Was this person mentally ill, as in did they have a disorder? Mm-hmm. Right? And that's unfair, because we don't want to label mental illnesses as they produce homicide tendencies, right? Homicidal tendencies, right? But we have to think about the brain can very rarely go into psychotic episodes. And I mean that in the sense of when a person reaches a breaking point, they don't need to be diagnosed with anything. They have a mental break. Just like our physical body breaks down, the brain also goes into rage. Your brain sends you into rage. It signals.
Felicia says, I dealt with a stalker relationship once, and I know now that I missed the signs of overly protective and attention. Yeah.
So I hope that, us talking about this is not just an internal assessment, but looking at people in your space, in your world, people you live with, right? Mm-hmm. Your family members you work with or that you're close with, to say, hey, let's educate each other, right? Let's open the lines of communication. And next week we're going to get into accountability and what that looks like, to say, can someone change, right? Do we have to get to homicide and suicide, right? Mm-hmm. Fatal relationships, right?
Yeah.
Can
what can we do before we get to that point?
Yeah. And it's okay, because at this point, part of what we discover as human nature, that we do things to each other, right? That causes serious devastation, serious pain, serious hurt. But are we willing to get in front of it more, right? Are we willing to teach our kids how to date, how to treat their partners? Are we willing to break some of these generational cycles, right? That our kids are picking up on, that hurt us in the past, but we're not stopping, or we're not saying anything, knowing that they're doing what we did, right? When they were watching us, when they were growing up, they were watching you. So now you're watching them treat their partners the same way, right? We're watching it over and over and over again. Right, and the accessibility of weapons, the accessibility of, I don't care if I hurt you, right? Because this is how deep my love goes for you. Okay, so I hope that this has opened up some conversation. I hope that this is a thought, right, on our minds as we think about how love, right, can turn fatal. Threats, physical violence, escalation, right, interactions with your family, the lack of interaction with your family, heck, them saying it. Right? Take them at their word. Never feel like there's not a possibility that they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do that. They're just talking. There's always a possibility. Right? There's always a possibility. Okay? All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go another week, right? Next week, we're talking about accountability. In the process of change. Is there help? Is there such a thing as help for an aggressor? Right? That's what we're going to dive into. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Felicia. Hope to see you next week. And thank you for those tuning in on Block Talk Radio and those on Facebook Incognito.
Right. Sneak watching. That's what I call them. Sneak watching.
Hope you got something from it. And I will see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And stay safe.
Yeah, your
no, let me turn the mix back on. Go ahead. Go.
good for the soul. Oh, there you go. All right. I sounded better than them. See?
You got the key.